Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of Wray's Garage. This is a sad day. This is the final drive of this 2017 Porsche Macan Turbo 95 B1 chassis, and spent a little bit of time here the last, night and morning putting it basically back to stock. So I've removed and divorced the cob tuner. I've replaced the cool carbon fiber air intake lids that I got from Flat 6 Motorsports. I've removed the growly and exciting Soul Performance Products resonator muffler, and the car sounds way tamer than I remember it even. So if you're in a 95 B1, or I think even they make it for the newer versions, definitely consider the Soul resonator exhaust. It really opens up the personality of your motor. From an audible perspective, I would highly recommend it. And you know what's funny? Now I've taken the tune off. I'm here right now in non-sport, nothing special on the suspension. It's super smooth. And the only thing I kind of remember from the tuned part of the car is that it was a little bit strung out, which, I think it's kind of the point of getting it tuned, right, is to have it push more boost and make more performance type noises. But this is just such a comfortable car. Everybody loves the Porsche Macan. Men, women alike. Everyone can get the personality, the driving personality they desire out of this car. And so it begs the question, why are we on a final drive video and gushing about the Macan? I have automotive ADD, and $4 and $5 gas prices have led me to, come on, guess it, say it in your heads, and then forgive me immediately. But yes, EV land beckons. So look at that, there's an EV right there. It's not another i3, before you, any of you long-term watchers suggest, but it is the i4. Yep, that's right. I have an i4 inbound from Germany, the eDrive 40. I know, I didn't even go for the top muscle variant. I'm going for the rear-wheel drive variant with only 335 horses. Get it in, 4 to 6 weeks, and we'll kind of see how that journey goes. But yeah, just trying to get away from some of that nasty Biden inflation. 2 years is a very strong ownership period for me, believe it or not. 2 years is quite a long ownership experience in Wray's Garage. So cars that survive that long, they're definitely worth their salt. And maybe in a future, not too distant future, when the Macan EV or Boxster EV, God forbid, but I think it's I think it's in the mail. Maybe I'll re-enter that space. But as far as EVs go, today, the BMW i4 is the most car-like one. There are two things left on the Macan that I am curious if the BMW guys are going to give me some guff about, and that is that this thing has those fantastic Boston 20-inch wheels on it, in addition to this matte Trenton blue wrap from KPMF. That one I'm wondering how they're going to feel about it. But either way, in my opinion, they really enhanced my ownership experience of this car, because this is a black paint vehicle, which you cannot own in Arizona unless you are completely void of any OCD around dust beam on your car, and I am not. So that's all that's really left that is non-stock. I did remove the racing paddles, so I'm probably going to list those on Facebook somewhere for sale. I did pull those carbon fiber Flat 6 inlets for the intake. I do have the cob access port, and I do have the OEM wheels, and so frankly that's going to help me offset some of the rather sad trade, because I'm just catching on the back end of all hot automotive market where people were paying exorbitant prices, and they were, dealerships couldn't wait to get their hands on new vehicles. But now that softness is kicking in, I think they're kind of tightening their belts on that front, and in doing so, I'm getting a fair trade. Don't get me wrong. My ownership cost, if you didn't include all the bolt-ons that I did, that I'll probably recover some money from anyway, was only I guess about 8 grand over 2 years. So that is not unacceptable by any stretch of the imagination, at least for me. And so, yeah, I'm really, I'm in two minds about it, I'll be honest. The family loves it. I had to do a final drive with my eldest daughter last night. She tends to get emotional about a lot of things, and I wouldn't have expected it to be cars, but she said goodbye to a lot of cars, and it's hard. It's just as hard every time. And you know, my wife even this morning kind of gave it a fun last look before I set off here to make sure we lock in that crappy trade I got, because if I wait longer, it could get worse. And so, yeah, that's the family's point of view on it. Everyone had a little sadness, and that I think bleeds back to my point of men and women love this, but you know, as far as kids enjoying the drive in the back, it being a comfortable family car, at least if you're 4 bodies. I don't know about 5. I'm not sure how that metal seat back there is really awesome for people, but I'm sure it works if you make it. Trunk space, functionality, all the diverse things you can do in this car, and squat it down and still get, you know, a couple of jollies from really hammering on the fun pedal down here. Two years ago I got this car, and I'm sure a very fair question you might ask is, what did it cost to own, above and beyond, you know, the purchase price relative to the new sales price or trade-in price, however you look at that. And actually I need to net that out. So once I've got the full benefit of the tax benefit of the trade-in, it's actually costing me 5 grand for 2 years. So let's say top line $5,000 just to buy the car for the period of time I owned it. I've put in 2 oil changes with the good stuff, AMS oil. So let's say they're $80 each, so it's $160 there. I paid Porsche $200 to flush the brakes. Now, I know you've seen me flush brakes, so you might wonder why I did that, but I had a bum, the nozzle on one of the brake calipers, and I just didn't want to mess with it, and so I let them do that. That turned into a brake booster issue that they replaced under warranty, so that actually worked out for me. It might have gone a little worse if I would have interfered on that front. That was all done while this car was in for the dreaded timing chain cover leak. So relatively famous in a lot of the early generation here was the timing chain cover bolts. They were torqued incorrectly at factory, and that caused them to be stressed and then kind of basically seep and or pop off and allow oil to be escaping very, very slowly from the block. And on my first oil change, when I looked up, I could see those leaks, and immediately, because it is a CPO, certified pre-owned Porsche, took it in, and sure enough, they took care of that issue. Now, it was a full engine out job. I had to wait a few weeks because they had so many of these up on their lifts that were out of commission, because it's a several day job. And then they take, you know, when I took it in, it was 4 or 5 days between the various items, and they just dropped the entire engine. In fact, I'll take a picture of the warranty invoice, because there's just so many line items on there. I wish there was a dollar amount. I understand it's $8,000 to $10,000, but I could be wrong. Maybe that's retail. And more recently, on the timing chain cover front, for those of you that aren't in a warranty situation or position and might have anxiety about that, I understand that there's a new procedure where the engine doesn't have to come out, and those bolts can be sometimes extracted and re-torqued down without that full nonsense of a procedure. So that's there. What's the other high failure point on these that was under warranty? I never experienced it, so I can't remember. I think there's another fairly common issue with the Macans that's problematic, and if I think of it, I'll certainly bring it up here later. So the timing chain cover cost me $0 because it was under warranty. But definitely, if you're in the market for a Macan, it is worth looking at having a PPI, right, the pre-purchase inspection, and make sure you're Indy. Hopefully, go to an Indy. Don't go to a Porsche dealer necessarily. Go to an Indy and have them look up right in front of. Take the belly pan off of the very front there and look up on the front and see if they see any evidence of kind of slimy oil. Sometimes it's kind of leaking down fairly obviously, but in my case, it was just I could see a couple of kind of shiny dots on parts of the front of the motor I wouldn't expect to see it. So that was how I ID'd it. Definitely you want to do that. In fact, when I was shopping for this, I was looking at a GTS, got a pre-purchase inspection performed on that because it was up in Chicago, so I couldn't go myself. And sure enough, there was a leak on that thing, and it was 1 day out from coming out of warranty itself. And so, that gentleman, as disappointed as he was that I backed out of the sale, he did get it taken care of, and it was done under Porsche's warranty. So, for those of you naysayers that say, oh, it's not that common, the two that I went near, sooner or later ran into it. In fact, I suspect this had a leak when I bought it. But when I bought this one, I didn't do the pre-purchase inspection, and I didn't see it when I was up in Colorado picking it up. Also, knowing it was CPO for 2 years, that did diminish my anxiety on that. Besides the oil changes, the brake fluid flush that I did have Porsche perform, the timing chain cover leak that they took care of under warranty, I've done all the $40,000 maintenance items. So I did spark plugs. What else did I do? That was really it in terms of like forced maintenance or preventive maintenance. But there's been no other issues with the vehicle. It's flashed a check engine light once or twice. Frankly, I think that was because the car was tuned and I jammed on it in third gear, and it probably stressed out the limiter to some degree, and so it gave me a limp mode. But that was definitely manipulation. I don't think the car would do that independently. Brakes have always been rock solid. The steering's always been really good. The gear changes have always been lightning fast and smooth, whether I'm manipulating it or the car is shifting itself here in this wonderful PDK box. It's a great car. It's a great value of ownership for me, and partially that's because of the nature of the times where there's those inflated prices or inflated values of used automotives, but it's such a strong car. It's really very reliable in my eyes.